I came to the capital to break off my engagement with Jiang Nanting, the heir to the Marquis of Jinan. I had my childhood sweetheart, and he had his own suitable companion. We parted amicably, intending to go our separate ways in marriage. But fate intervened. I was drugged and ended up lying beside him at the banquet. We were forced into marriage. Jiang Nanting believed I schemed for wealth and prestige, hating me for the rest of his life. He raised my son and daughter to reject me as their birth mother. After a lifetime of misery, I awoke reborn on the very day I set out for the capital. My childhood sweetheart, Su Jingyao, urged me to go and return soon, his heart heavy with reluctance. He would wait for me at home. I tossed my bag, leaped from the carriage, and threw myself into his arms. I'm not going to the capital. We can break the engagement with a letter, let's marry right now. He was both shocked and delighted. Really? I nodded vigorously. Really? Main text, Su Jingyao and I were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. My family ran a cloth shop in the western part of town, while his family operated an embroidery workshop in the south. Our elders were not only business partners but also neighbors from the same hometown, sharing the closest of bonds. Ever since I could walk, I followed him around, wandering from west to south every day. Spring brought lake outings, summer saw us picking lotus seeds in the river, autumn was for flying kites, and winter was for building snowmen. When my parents were busy with business, Su Jingyao was usually the one looking after me. Having been inseparable since childhood, it was only natural that we fell for each other when our hearts first stirred with young love. I'd assumed our mutual affection and our parents' open-mindedness would make marriage a simple matter. But who could have imagined my father would frown and announce I was betrothed to the heir of the Prince of Jinan in the capital? 15 years prior, the old Prince of Jinan was sent to Liangzhou to suppress bandits. He was gravely wounded and saved by my father. The old prince, a man of deep feeling, waved his hand generously and gifted my father a fine jade pendant inlaid with pearls, shaped like a qilin. He mentioned that his eldest grandson was close to my age, and once I reached the age of coming of age, he would send envoys to bring me to the capital to become the heir's wife. My father, filled with trepidation, dared not refuse. I had assumed that since there had been little contact between our families over the years, and no one had come for me after I passed the age of coming of age, this marriage arrangement had lapsed. But then, a letter arrived from the capital recently, ostensibly to discuss the marriage. Only then did my father panic. I took the letter and read it carefully, then breathed a huge sigh of relief. It turned out the old Marquis had passed away 5 years ago. The letter from the Marquis of Jinan's residence, while seemingly discussing the marriage, was filled with disdain for my status as the daughter of a merchant family. Further inquiries revealed that my nominal fiancé had already found a suitable companion in the capital, a lady of matching lineage. He, the heir apparent of a marquisate, she, a princess of a royal house. A match made in heaven, a perfect pair. The Marquisite's letter, in truth, sought to pressure my family into initiating the annulment. After all, my father had saved the life of the late Marquis of Jinan. To renege on the engagement due to a disparity in social standing would be to openly declare to the world that they were ungrateful and heartless. Such noble families, who value their reputation above all, would never allow their name to be tarnished in the slightest. After I explained everything to my father, he too breathed a sigh of relief. Leaving my mother to tend to the household, my father and I set off for the capital to dissolve the engagement. Everything proceeded smoothly at first. Upon learning our purpose, the Marquis's household abandoned their earlier contempt and treated us as honored guests. But during the farewell banquet they hosted for us, someone slipped a love potion into my tea. When I awoke, I found myself lying beside the Marquis's heir, Jiang Nanting. Under the gazes of the Marquis's household, some filled with disgust and contempt, others with shocked disapproval, I dragged my aching body, my heart plunged into icy water. The Marquis's matriarch stared at me coldly, her voice final, "Prepare for the wedding. Since Miss Qin holds my grandson in such high regard, even scheming to secure him, and considering the Qin family's life-saving debt to our late Marquis, I shall grant your wish." Jiang Nanting's eyes blazed crimson. "Grandmother! The princess and I have pledged our hearts to each other. How can I marry another?" I tried to explain that I knew nothing of the scheme, that I too had been framed, and that I never wished to become the heir's consort. My father also hurriedly declared he would take me back immediately, vowing never to disrupt the heir and princess's marriage. But Jiang Beiwang, the second young master of the Marquis's household, stepped forward. How can my elder brother shirk responsibility after taking possession of Miss Qin's body? Besides, Miss Qin's uncle saved our grandfather's life. She was always meant to be my eldest brother's betrothed. Before I could protest further, the old matriarch cut me off. Enough. This matter is settled. From that day onward, my life plummeted from the mortal realm into a hell of torment. First, you feigned breaking off the engagement to win my favor. Then you drugged me to ruin your own virtue, forcing me to marry you while burdening me with guilt. I suspect that so-called childhood sweetheart was just another deception, wasn't it? From start to finish, your goal was always the position of Crown Prince's consort, wasn't it? Qin Ruofei, what a brilliant scheme you've concocted. On our wedding night, Jiang Nanting tore off my veil and heaped insults upon me. I never once thought that. My father and I came to the capital with the sincere intention of annulling our engagement. My heart was utterly broken, yet I refused to bear the stain of shame without a fight. What good is being a Crown Prince's consort? From the very beginning, I only ever wanted to marry my childhood sweetheart, Su Jingyao, and be a loving couple with him. But Jiang Nanting wouldn't believe it. His eyes were filled with disgust, his expression mocking. Enough. Why pretend to be so high and mighty? You've already secured the position of Crown Prince's consort. I won't believe a word you say now. Nor did anyone in the Marquis's household. In their eyes, I was a vain, scheming merchant's daughter of low moral character. Even after marrying Jiang Nanting, though nominally the Crown Prince consort of the Marquis of Jinan, my life in the household was worse than that of a servant. Jiang Nanting's beloved, Princess Jiafu, had married his cousin Jiang Beiwang. This only deepened his hatred for me. He never once entered my chambers after our marriage. Yet on the day Princess Jiafu and Jiang Beiwang wed, he came. He told me my father had been attacked by bandits on the road back to Liangzhou, falling to his death off a cliff. No remains were found. I was overcome with grief, yet he laughed with delight. This is your retribution, Qin Ruofei. This is what you get for tearing me and the princess apart. I endured 15 years in the Marquis of Jinan's mansion. I contemplated revenge and contemplated death. Jiang Nanting threatened me with my mother. If you dare die, I'll send your mother to join you. Qin Ruofei, your father was killed by your own vanity. You don't want your mother to join him in death, do you? Princess Jiafu and Jiang Beiwang were famously devoted throughout the capital. This only fueled Jiang Nanting's growing obsession and cruelty. While the old grandmother was alive, he still exercised some restraint. My son and daughter were born during this time. After the old grandmother passed away, Jiang Nanting shed all restraint. The two children I risked my life to bear were raised by him to despise me, their mother. A lowly merchant's daughter, how dare you call yourself my mother? I wish you'd die soon, so father could remarry a noble lady and register me and my sister under our new mother's name. 15 long years, just recalling that past life suffocates me with despair. Having finally earned a second chance, I yearn to flee the capital as far as possible. How could I be so reckless as to repeat those mistakes? Before our family gate, beneath the apricot tree, I clung to Su Jingyao as if holding a priceless treasure rediscovered after loss. Come to think of it, we hadn't seen each other in 15 years. In my past life, I was trapped in the Marquis's mansion while he stayed in Liangzhou to care for my mother. He waited for me his entire life, never marrying. I was the one who wronged him. Father hurriedly jumped down from the carriage. What's going on here? The betrothal hasn't been dissolved yet. Let go! What kind of spectacle is this? I refused to let go. Clutching Su Jingyao's hand tightly, I pulled my father toward us. Father, we won't go to the capital. The Marquis's household already looks down on us, why should we bother going there? They write letters, we write letters. We both don't want to fulfill this engagement anyway. What does propriety matter? Can they really take it out on us over this? Father was the very man who saved the old Marquis of Jinan's life. Xiao Fei, why are you crying? Father's words made me realize tears were streaming down my face. Father, mother, even Uncle Su and Aunt Su gathered around. Su Jingyao wiped my tears with a look of heartache, while father hesitated several times, holding back his words out of concern for me. Surrounded by my closest family, tears streamed down like beads from a broken string, and I wept until I could barely breathe. Just now, sitting in the carriage, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my chest. A voice in my mind warned me not to go to the capital. Father, please, let's not go. If we do, something terrible will happen. The idea of rebirth was too fantastical to share. Fortunately, my parents cherished me deeply. Seeing me weeping like this, they immediately agreed. All right, we won't go. Father will just write a letter instead. With their affirmation, a heavy weight lifted from my shoulders, and my whole body felt lighter. Then, in the next instant, darkness engulfed my vision, and I felt the world spinning wildly. Before my consciousness faded, the terrified and worried faces of my parents and Su Jingyao flickered before my eyes. Fearing I might wake to find it was all just a dream, I clutched their sleeves tightly and lost consciousness completely. You wretch! If not for you, I should be the one marrying the princess today. Qin Ruofei, you ruined everything for me. You won't get off scot-free. If mother truly cared for me and my sister, she should have taken her own life to atone, allowing father to marry us a stepmother from a noble family. I'd rather have a cold-hearted stepmother than a mother of your despicable character. It's all your fault. Why did I have to be born to a mother like you? If not for you, I wouldn't be mocked by them. A merchant's daughter is just that, a merchant's daughter. All she knows are cheap tricks. It's a pity for the young master and the two little masters. In the depths of winter, I lay bedridden with illness. 12-year-old Jiang Buiyuan brought me a bowl of cold medicine laced with arsenic. Only when you die will my sister and I have a bright future. This 12-year-old boy had fully inherited his biological father's cold-blooded cruelty. His hand holding the bowl showed no tremor, his gaze upon me was already that of one looking at a corpse. Tears of laughter welled in my eyes as I took the bowl without hesitation and drank it down in one gulp. Jiang Buiyuan seemed startled, stumbling back half a step as he stared intently at me. The poison took effect swiftly. My internal organs felt as if they were being torn apart. I coughed up a mouthful of black blood, my breath growing faint. Thank you. Jiang Buiyuan's eyes widened in shock, disbelief etched on his face. What? I said, thank you for setting me free. I closed my eyes peacefully as my breath grew faint. May you and your sister get what you wish for. Xiao Fei? Xiao Fei? The familiar, gentle call roused me from the nightmare. I struggled to open my eyes, seeing only my mother's anxious and worried face, her eyes brimming with unstoppable heartache. Bad dream? Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Mother and father are both here. She held me close, patting my back gently, just as she had when lulling me to sleep as a child. My tear-filled eyes blurred. My heart, suspended on a cliff and battered by wind and frost, finally found solid ground in her warm embrace and soothing words. Yes, mother and father were both here. So was Su Jingyao. But things were different now. I had been reborn. Everything was a fresh start. I would never sink back into the circumstances of my past life. Su Jingyao and I were married. After receiving the reply from the Marquis of Jinnan's residence in the capital, confirming the dissolution of my betrothal to Jiang Nanting, the Marquis of Jinnan's household showed no concern whether we came in person. Their reply was quite courteous, not only sending 500 taels of silver as compensation but also stating that should we face hardship in the future, we could present the token of our betrothal to seek aid in the capital. Father declared the Marquis of Jinnan's household truly a family of reasonable people. I scoffed. What was this? It was what they owed our family all along. Whether it was my father's life-saving favor to the late Marquis of Jinnan, or my unjustly framed past life. Life after marriage was much the same as before. Father had a small door specially built into the shared courtyard wall between our homes, allowing me to visit whenever I wished. Su Jingyao studied, while I accompanied both my parents and in-laws on business trips. At noon, he would bring lunch to the shop for me, along with homemade lychee drink. Returning home at dusk, I'd bring back the best roast goose from the Eastern eatery. After dinner, I'd drag him up to the rooftop to gaze at the stars, or we'd go to the study where he'd read me stories. Occasionally, I'd wake from nightmares in the dead of night, and when I opened my eyes, he was always there beside me. I'll always be with you, Xiao Fei. He held me, as gentle and dependable as ever. Those were just dreams. In reality, I'm always here, even death cannot separate us. Our days were simple yet fulfilling. Gradually, I stopped having nightmares about my past life and rarely recalled its painful memories. Just when I thought life would continue this way forever, I encountered someone all too familiar. Jiang Nanting looked exactly as he had in my past life. His expression was gloomy, his features haggard, his eyes a turbulent mix of overwhelming fury and ecstatic joy at seeing me again. Qin. Ruo. Fei. His voice sounded like a demon's growl. My whole body went cold, and I tried to run. But he caught up, seizing my wrist with brutal force. Come back with me. I drew a sharp breath and wrenched free. Let go. Who are you? We've never met. Why are you grabbing me like this? My wife. Su Jingyao appeared just in time from the restaurant, carrying a food box. He shielded me behind him, shot a wary glance at the intruder, then turned to ask me, "Are you okay?" Seeing his tall, sturdy frame and the unmasked worry on his face, my heart settled instantly. I'm fine. Su Jingyao's furrowed brow relaxed slightly. He fixed Jiang Nanting with a stern gaze. Gentlemen, in broad daylight, please show some restraint. Jiang Nanting's eyes flashed crimson, his face twisted with betrayal and humiliation. Qin Ruofei, you should be my wife. Your Highness, that is not correct. In the main hall, my father suppressed his anger, his brow furrowed tightly. My Xiao Fei is now a member of the Su family. How could she possibly marry you? Moreover, your betrothal was dissolved 6 years ago. As agreed, we each went our separate ways. Jiang Nanting's gaze remained fixed on the hand Su Jingyao and I held. Uncle, when that betrothal was dissolved, I had not yet reached adulthood. I was still young. Now I am of age. In my dreams, I often hear grandfather sighing, saying I have failed my beloved. To bring him peace, I wish to renew the alliance between our families. I hold no prejudice against Fei for being remarried. I will wed her as my crown prince consort. Henceforth, the Qin family shall be my legitimate in-laws. Crown Prince Jiang. Before Jiang Nanting could finish, Su Jingyao cut him off sharply. Your betrothal to Xiao Fei was dissolved long ago. You have no connection whatsoever. By what right do you now not disdain her? Jiang Nanting's face darkened instantly. Su Jingyao clasped my hand tightly, his tone softening slightly. Xiao Fei and I grew up together, our bond deep and enduring. After marriage, our love was unwavering, our life filled with happiness and fulfillment. If the Prince of Jian has come to visit his father-in-law, the Su family will honor him as a distinguished guest and treat him with the utmost respect. But if the prince continues to spout such outrageous nonsense and insist on causing trouble, he stepped in front of me, his profile sharp and resolute. I, Su Jingyao, will risk my very life to prevent such a villain from succeeding. Jiang Nanting stared at him for a long moment, then suddenly smiled, his expression dripping with contempt. You are but a lowly merchant. What right do you have to speak to this prince in such a manner? This prince and Ah Fei were betrothed since childhood. Now that she has divorced you to marry me, it is merely setting things right. Has the young master lost his mind on the journey here to utter such nonsense? I could no longer contain myself, glaring furiously at Jiang Nanting, whose face darkened at the head of the table. Our betrothal was dissolved centuries ago. We agreed to marry others and remain unrelated. Has the young master now reneged? Even if I wanted to go back on it, I couldn't. My husband and I have been married for years, our bond is deep. I could never divorce him to marry another. Qin Ruofei. Jiang Nanting abruptly rose, striding toward me. Su Jingyao stood firmly behind me, not budging an inch. Step aside. Jiang Nanting spat out each word, his eyes blazing with fury. Su Jingyao stood his ground, radiating a chill. In broad daylight, Your Highness, have you no shame left? Jiang Nanting's face darkened further as he glared at me, holding his breath. I'm giving you a chance to marry me openly and honorably, Qin Ruofei. Think carefully. Marry me, and you'll be the crown prince consort of the first-rank marquis household. One day, you'll be the first-rank marquis lady. I'll support your family. Your business will spread throughout Liangzhou City. A flicker of guilt crossed Jiang Nanting's eyes as if he'd recalled something, and his tone softened. Fei, I will make it up to you. And you honor and Jeaner, I will teach them to honor and care for you. Enough! The humiliation and agony of my past life surged back, my breath catching. I could barely restrain the urge to tear Jiang Nanting apart with my gaze. Does your highness truly believe I, Qin Ruofei, am some vain, status-obsessed creature? What's this about a crown prince's consort? A marquise lady? I couldn't care less. Jiang Nanting's pupils trembled in disbelief. This life, Qin Ruofei only wishes to find one true soulmate, to grow old together without parting. I raised my hands, fingers intertwined with Su Jingyao's. Fortunately, such a person has been by my side from the very beginning, never leaving. No. Jiang Nanting murmured, staggering back half a step as if unable to bear it. Crown Prince Jiang, I have never owed you anything. On the contrary, my father saved your grandfather. Our Qin family owes your marquisate an immense debt of gratitude. My father sought no repayment, but that doesn't mean you can take advantage. The betrothal was dissolved 6 years ago. We've had no connection since. You come to Liangzhou uninvited, demanding I divorce my husband and remarry with this condescending, patronizing attitude. You even ask if I'm ashamed of my remarried status. What right do you have to look down on me? In what capacity? I laughed coldly. Or is this how the Jinnan Marquis household repays kindness? If the late Marquis knew of this, he'd likely rise from the grave to discipline his ungrateful offspring. My father paled in shock. Xiao Fei. Rage surged within me, and I pressed on relentlessly. If your highness truly wishes the late Marquis to rest in peace, you shouldn't exploit his memory to spout such absurdities. You should leave my family far behind, depart Liangzhou entirely, and truly sever all ties. The words had left my mouth, leaving no room for retreat. My father stepped in front of me, exchanging forced laughter with Jiang Nanting. Your highness, please forgive Xiao Fei. He's a straightforward child who always speaks his mind. It's getting late. Your highness should return to the inn quickly. Traveling after dark is unwise. Jiang Nanting's gaze was complex as he studied me for a long moment. Only when the worry and anger in my father's eyes became unmistakable did he snap out of his trance. Uncle. My deepest apologies. The cold wind truly must have gone to my head earlier. With night approaching, it's too late to search for lodging elsewhere. Might there be a spare room at your residence? Might I borrow it for a night or two? Jiang Nanting was, after all, the heir to the Marquis' estate. If he wished to mend relations, we weren't necessarily bent on tearing ties completely. Though things were already close to that point. Jiang Nanting's tone was courteous and gentle. No matter how reluctant my father felt, he could only give me a meaningful glance before gesturing for Jiang Nanting to follow him deeper into the estate. Of course, your highness, please follow me. Jiang Nanting gave me one lingering look before following my father away. But I remained vigilant. I pulled Su Jingyao back to the Su residence and locked the small side gate securely. Then, without pause, I returned to my study to write a letter to the capital. This day hadn't caught me unprepared. 15 years of agony and vengeance in my past life, how could such wounds heal so easily? Jiang Nanting had killed my father with his own hands. The murder of my father was a grudge I could carry for a lifetime, let alone anything else. Had he not, like me, stumbled upon extraordinary fortune, our paths would have diverged, and I might have swallowed this bitterness. But he chose to provoke me. So be it, old grudges and new grievances shall be settled together. By the time I finished writing the letter, night had fallen. Setting down my brush, I only then realized that since entering the study, Su Jingyao had been quietly grinding ink for me. Husband, I looked at him, feeling a bit flustered and uneasy. Don't you have anything you want to ask me? He must have noticed my unusual state after today's argument with Jiang Nanting. But I've never even met Jiang Nanting, where could such deep resentment come from? Su Jingyao's eyes were clear and serene. Do you want me to ask? I froze. He stepped closer, gently caressing my cheek. If you wish to speak, I will ask. If you wish to remain silent, I will not pry. Xiao Fei, we are one in marriage. Knowing your heart is enough. Husband. Tears welled in my eyes as I threw myself into his embrace. How fortunate I am to have married a husband like you. Wah, a child's wail echoed from outside. I want mama. I want daddy. My mother-in-law knocked on the study door, cradling the child. Xiao Fei? Jing Yao? Mother, coming. I hastily wiped my tears, about to rise, but Su Jingyao pressed me back into the chair, handing me a handkerchief. I'll go. He must have said something to my mother-in-law, for she didn't enter. You cry, your mother cries, two little crybabies, big and small. He gently tapped the child's tear-stained nose, his voice tender and indulgent. Schwer cries because she misses mommy and daddy. Daddy can't scold Schwer. Still clinging to his chest, her face streaked with tears, the little girl protested in a spoiled tone. Mommy cried because she hasn't seen Schwer in so long, right? Before I even reached them, the little one stretched her arms out eagerly toward me. I scooped her into my arms, nuzzling her tear-streaked little face. Schwer is right. Mommy cried because she couldn't see Schwer. If Mama doesn't cry, Schwer won't cry either. She tugged at my sleeve to wipe my tears with all seriousness, her earnest little expression making me smile. I couldn't resist kissing her rosy cheeks. My dear daughter, how can you be so adorable? Schwer immediately puffed out her little chest. Of course! I'm Mama and Papa's little girl. With my dearest loved ones by my side, all the resentment and unease in my heart melted away like spring rain. That night, I told Su Jingyao about my past life, a chapter I'd long wished to forget. So, you've been cultivating connections with Lord Chen and building your network in the capital for the past 6 years, all for this day? His voice trembled, his eyes reddened. I nodded and smiled at him. Fortunately, the effort wasn't wasted. Chen Bingchun, Lord Chen, 6 years ago, he was merely the magistrate of Yong'an County in Huaining Prefecture, Liangzhou. But now, he holds the rank of 3rd grade, serving as the chief secretary of the Imperial Secretariat, deeply trusted by the current emperor. In my past life, his lofty ambitions went unfulfilled, trapped in a small county town until his bitter end. This lifetime, I guided him discreetly, repeatedly saving his entire family's lives. In return, he rose swiftly through the ranks, becoming my connection and pillar of support in the capital. Even if Jiang Nanting is the crown prince, if he dares to defy the law and lay a finger on my family this time, I'll make sure he never returns. Xiao Fei. You've suffered so much. Su Jingyao held me tightly in his arms. I felt the dampness on my forehead, my heart both tender and bitter. It's not hardship. As long as I'm with you, with Schwer, and with father and mother, I don't feel it. Compared to the loneliness of my past life, the hardships of this one were sweet. Next spring's imperial examinations, I will surely make the list. Then I can protect you, and you won't have to struggle like this anymore. I lifted my head and kissed his chin, my voice full of longing. I believe you. He lowered his head, seeking my lips, and sighed softly, Xiao Fei. After Jiang Nanting moved into our home, he showed no intention of leaving. These days, I haven't been to the shop or returned to my parents' home. I've been holed up in the small courtyard I share with Su Jingyao. I look after the children, do needlework, flip through storybooks, or practice the zither. Apart from not being able to go out, life feels much like any other day. On this crisp autumn day, I lay in the wicker chair under the eaves, taking my usual nap. Suddenly, a shrill child's wail pierced the air, making my heart skip a beat. I sprang up and dashed outside. Give it back! Give it back! That was made for me by my mother. No, it wasn't. That was clearly made by my mother. The shrieking cries were sharp and piercing, yet they weren't my daughter Schwer's. Instead, they belonged to a voice both unfamiliar and strangely familiar. Jiang Hanjin, the younger daughter of the son and daughter I bore in my previous life. She was now tangled in a struggle with Schwer, screaming frantically for the boy beside them to help her. Brother! Brother! Help me! This little brat is so strong. The boy, Jiang Buiyuan, my eldest son from my past life, wore an expression of impatience and irritation. Unable to resist his younger sister's pleas, and with Schwer striking with both ferocity and precision, a hint of ruthlessness unbecoming his age flashed across his youthful brow. Next, he picked up a nearby stone and raised his arm, aiming to smash it into Schwer's head. "Schwer, get out of the way!" I was horrified. Without a second thought, I rushed forward and kicked him hard, sending him tumbling to the ground. The stone grazed Schwer's forehead, blood gushing instantly. Furious and distraught, I shoved Jiang Hanjin aside, scooped Schwer up, and rushed outside. "Prepare the carriage! To the clinic! Quickly! Schwer isn't scared. Mama's here, so don't be afraid." Just one glance at the wound nearly shattered my heart. Yet the little one clung obediently to my neck, one hand pressed against her forehead, still trying to comfort me. "Mommy, don't worry. Schwer isn't scared." Behind us, Jiang Hanjin screamed in heart-wrenching disbelief, "Mother! Mother! Mother, come back! I'm your daughter!" A figure suddenly dropped before me, none other than Jiang Nanting, whom I hadn't seen in days. His face was grim, filled with anguish. "Qin Ruofei, Yuaner and Jiner are your own flesh and blood. How could you harm them?" Without a second thought, I kicked him square in the groin. "You get lost too." Caught off guard, Jiang Nanting doubled over, groaning in pain. "Qin Ruofei," I had already scooped Schwer into the carriage, which swiftly raced toward the clinic. Perhaps the pain was too much, the little one couldn't help but let out a soft whimper. My heart shattered. I dared not imagine what would have happened if I'd arrived a moment later, if that stone had struck Schwer's head. My daughter, the child I carried for 10 months, cherished in the palm of my hand for 5 years, never letting her endure the slightest hardship. Yet Jiang Buiyuan and Jiang Hanjin, one sought to kill her outright, the other assaulted her with brutal recklessness. And Jiang Nanting. He must have calculated precisely when to block my path, didn't he? The carriage rolled over the cobblestone road, its motion relatively steady. Yet the sticky, clammy feel of blood on my hands and Schwer's agonized moans in my arms felt like being roasted over oil, slowly consuming my sanity. I no longer cared to dwell on why Jiang Nanting had returned, or how that brother and sister could have followed him back. Without me, who would have borne them into this life? Having a biological mother now, why did they come to Liangzhou searching for me? In my past life, they despised my merchant background so intensely, practically wishing for my early death to replace me with a stepmother of noble birth. What does this current behavior signify? The wound on Schwer's forehead was only superficial. After the doctor applied medicine and offered some advice, I took the child back to the mansion. "Xiao Fei. How is Schwer?" Su Jingyao had gone to his teacher's house at dawn. He must have rushed back in a hurry, sweat drenched his hair, his expression anxious and worried. "She's fine. Asleep." I patiently placed the unconscious child into his arms. Jiang Nanting and the 2 children were waiting in the main hall with my parents and in-laws. "No matter what, you shouldn't have thrown stones at that child, so what if I did?" Jiang Buiyuan's face twisted with viciousness. "That little slut attacked Jiner first. Even if I'd killed her, no one could blame me." My parents and in-laws, mindful of his status, dared not speak out despite their anger. Seeing this, Jiang Buiyuan grew even more brazen. "Besides, mother refuses to return with us because of that little slut. She should die, only then will mother." Jiang Nanting. Is this the upbringing of the Marquis of Jinnan's household? I strode into the main hall. "What crime did my daughter commit that you would attempt to kill her? She attacked my sister first." "I was only defending myself." Jiang Buiyuan's face twisted with defiance, a mix of hurt and resentment. "I did nothing wrong." Jiang Hanjin chimed in. "That little slut, Su Jingxue, attacked me first. She hit me so hard I couldn't fight back, so my brother helped me." As she spoke, her own voice grew tearful. "Mother, I did nothing wrong. You've already struck me and brother for her sake, isn't that enough?" She held out her scraped palm, weeping bitterly. "Mother, you never spoke harshly to me before. Is this how you want your children to end up?" Jiang Nanting's gaze darkened, his expression thick with disappointment. I nearly laughed in anger. Was this somehow my fault now? "You bad man. Don't you dare speak ill of my mother." Schwer had woken up at some point, her eyes red and swollen as she glared hatefully at the 3 men. That's my mother, not yours. You were the ones who stole my things first. You said my mother would end up with your father someday, called my father a weak scholar, and called my family lowly merchants. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I hit you." The little girl was utterly aggrieved. "I'm not a little slut, you are. You barged into my house out of nowhere to snatch my mother. You're all scoundrels. Get out of my house." Jiang Nanting's expression darkened. Jiang Buiyuan, unable to contain his anger, snapped, "You." I turned and gave a soft reprimand, "Swear." The little girl's eyes welled up with tears, and she dared not utter another sound. Jiang Buiyuan, however, thought I was taking his side. His frown instantly relaxed, and that familiar air of haughty arrogance returned to his face. Even Jiang Nanting softened his expression in surprise, his eyes gaining a new certainty. I beckoned to Jiang Buiyuan, my tone unnaturally gentle. "Young Master Jiang, would you kindly come this way?" What for?" Jiang Buiyuan turned his face away, clearly uncomfortable, yet his body betrayed him as he began walking toward me. Once he was within reach, I smiled at him. "To avenge my son." "What?" Jiang Buiyuan's face paled. Before he could react, I swiftly grabbed his hair and slapped him across the face more than a dozen times. Unable to bear the pain, he raised his hand to fight back. I seized his right wrist and twisted it viciously. Jiang Buiyuan let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. Everyone present was horrified. Jiang Nanting roared with fury, lunging toward me. But my parents, in-laws, and the household servants all shielded me firmly behind them, preventing him from getting close. Pain and rage twisted Jiang Buiyuan's face as he shrieked, "You're insane. You're the one who's mad." I flung him to the ground without mercy. Is it wrong for me to avenge my daughter? If I hadn't intervened this afternoon, that rock in your hand would have smashed her skull. She might not even be alive today. You tried to harm my daughter and expected me to be gentle and kind? You're dreaming. So young, yet so vile. I pity your own mother. She endured so much to give birth to you, yet you show no gratitude, readily claiming another as your mother. Jiang Buiyuan's eyes burned with resentment as he gritted out, "You know perfectly well that you are my only child is Shuer." I looked at him, then shifted my gaze to Jiang Hanjin, who stood frozen in place. "She is the fruit of my deep love with my husband. I willingly endured the hardships of pregnancy and the pain of childbirth to bring her into this world. I love her and cherish her, willing to sacrifice everything for her, not something you and your sister can change by calling me mother a few times. Besides, I could never raise children as stubborn and vicious as you, children who treat human life as worthless. Now, Prince Jiang, take your 2 children and get out of my house. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to broadcast the Zhennan Marquis's ungrateful oppression of the weak throughout the entire Great Way." Jiang Nanting's face darkened to a terrifying shade. "You dare?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" I stared at him coldly, without fear. "You are about to kill my daughter. What is there left for me to fear? If you remain stubborn and continue to scheme to tear our family of 3 apart, I will risk my own life to make sure you suffer." "Fine. Fine." Jiang Nanting's eyes darkened, his words deliberate. "Qin Ruofei, you truly are something else. Let's go." With that, he strode out. The mansion's servants hurriedly picked up Jiang Buiyuan and followed. Jiang Hanjin stood frozen for a moment before bursting into tears and chasing after them. "Wait for me, father." Once all the outsiders had left, facing my closest kin in the hall, a wave of guilt washed over me. "I'm sorry. I acted rashly today." "What nonsense are you talking?" My mother-in-law gently interrupted me. "A mother protecting her child is instinctive. Besides, that Jiang Crown Prince was unreasonable from the start. You did nothing wrong." Su Jingyao held the child in one arm and reached out to take mine with the other. "No matter what happens, I'll face it with you." Shuer's little face was pale, but her eyes sparkled brightly. Mother looked so fierce just now. My heart melted, and I couldn't help but curve my lips upward. "All right, stop looking so gloomy. In this matter, it's Prince Jiang who's in the wrong." The eunuch's expression was solemn as he declared in a deep voice, "The young master and mistress of the home mansion injured Shuer. Xiao Fei avenged her daughter and injured that young master in return. It's even." I felt a rare twinge of guilt. Though Schwer's forehead wound bled profusely, it was ultimately just a superficial injury. But Jiang Buiyuan's right hand. I had broken it clean off. These past years, I'd often accompanied father on business trips and had even hired Master Wu for martial arts training. After enduring wind and rain, I was no longer the bookish weakling of my previous life. Even if Jiang Buiyuan sought immediate medical attention and managed to set the broken wrist bones, he'd likely suffer hidden injuries. As a scholar, an injury to his writing hand meant his path was severed. Yet recalling how Jiang Buiyuan had intended to crush Schwer to death, I felt my punishment had been far too lenient. The maternal bond one once shared with this brother and sister had long since dissipated in my previous life. To me now, they were merely Jiang Nanting's children, as harsh, cold-blooded, and treacherous as their father. I despised them to my core. That very night, I received a reply from the capital. It turned out that in this lifetime, I never went to the capital to break off the engagement. Yet, Jiang Nanting's marriage to the princess still came to nothing. This time, the one lying with Jiang Nanting in plain sight was a maid named Suiming. After being discovered, the maid wailed and claimed Jiang Nanting had forced himself on her while drunk, defiling her purity. Jiang Nanting flew into a rage, declaring the maid had schemed for wealth and status by drugging him to climb into his bed. But soon, Jiang Beiwang, the second young master of the Marquis's household, uncovered the truth. The maid had a childhood sweetheart and fiancé who had just placed first in the second-tier imperial examinations. He was waiting for her to leave the estate to marry her as his legitimate wife. Who would resort to drugging and seduction to become a legitimate wife? Thus, the blame once again fell squarely on Jiang Nanting. To salvage the reputation of her eldest grandson, the old grandmother personally arranged for Jiang Nanting to elevate the maid to the position of a noble concubine. The moment she entered the household, she discovered she was pregnant. 10 months later, she gave birth to twins, a son and a daughter, who became Jiang Buiyuan and his sister. Having lost his beloved, forced to take the woman who framed him as a concubine, and compelled to watch his beloved grow affectionate with his own cousin. Just as in his previous life, Jiang Nanting became utterly consumed by obsession. Though Princess Jiafu was now his brother's wife, he repeatedly disregarded propriety, fawning over the princess. How could Jiang Beiwang endure this? While the old grandmother of the Marquis was alive, the cousins maintained some restraint. But after her passing, the spectacle of these cousins vying for one woman instantly became the talk of the capital. Jiang Nanting, orphaned of both parents, lost his support base when the matriarch departed. Jiang Beiwang, however, had both parents alive and a powerful wife's family backing him. After years of open and covert struggles, Jiang Nanting's position as crown prince was now merely nominal. Jiang Beiwang set a trap, aiming not only for his title but also his life. Yet at the critical moment, Jiang Nanting seemed transformed, his entire being settling into profound stillness. I understood, like me, Jiang Nanting had experienced a miraculous encounter, returning from his previous life. As for Jiang Buiyuan and Jiang Hanjin, the brother and sister, they had been extraordinary from birth, unlike ordinary infants. They showed no affection for their birth mother, even harboring aversion toward her, yet they cherished Princess Jiafu deeply. That makes sense. In my previous life, these two children were taken from me immediately after birth and raised under the care of the old grandmother. After the old grandmother passed away, it was Princess Jiafu, their aunt by marriage, who primarily looked after them. To this brother and sister, Princess Jiafu was the mother of their dreams. A noble lady of high birth, dignified and elegant. But people naturally favor their own flesh and blood more. Whenever they were mistreated by the princess, the siblings would come to me. "It's all your fault. If not for you, the princess would be our mother." They inherited Jiang Nanting's harshness and cold-bloodedness, along with his dull-wittedness. When they were legitimate children, Princess Jiafu could still raise them to be useless, paving the way for her own biological offspring. But in this life, they were not only illegitimate, they were born to a servant. To the naturally noble Princess Jiafu, even using them as stepping stones for her own children was beneath her. She despised them for sullying the soles of her children's shoes. Thus, this life proved exceedingly harsh for the siblings. Yet I still couldn't fathom why Jiang Nanting had come to Liangzhou, spouting reckless claims demanding I divorce my husband and remarry him. No matter how badly he fared, he remained the legitimate heir of the Marquis of Jinan. Reborn with so many advantages over others, how could his life possibly be worse than before? Why couldn't he marry some noble lady, yet chose to pursue me, a woman already married with a daughter? I know you won't believe a word I say. In the speeding carriage, Jiang Nanting held me tightly against his chest. But it doesn't matter. I'll prove it to you with actions. I'll make it up to you. Jiang Nanting lowered his head, his gaze fixed deeply on me, his voice unbelievably tender, love you well. My stomach clenched, and I vomited right onto Jiang Nanting's face. Qin Ruofei. Jiang Nanting instantly released me, fury and frustration boiling. Even if you don't believe my words, you shouldn't, I wiped the filth from my lips and snorted. You claim to love me? Is this your love? Jiang Nanting froze. If you truly loved me, your first reaction wouldn't be disgust. It should be concern, worrying where I hurt, rushing to check on me. My husband never once looked at me with such disgust. To him, my body and my feelings always come first. Enough! Jiang Nanting seethed with frustration, gritting his teeth. So what? You're with me now anyway. As for Su Jingyao. Humph, he sneered coldly, this time next year will be his death anniversary. I snapped my head up, panic-stricken. What did you do to him? Jiang Nanting, tell me. What did you do to them? Jiang Nanting seized my chin with brutal force, his expression dark and menacing. You were right to leave Liangzhou City. Because from the day you laid a hand on me, I never intended to let you go. Qin Ruofei, I tried to reason with you. Since you wouldn't listen, don't blame me for forcing you now. So what if you remarried? So what if you bore a daughter? You were my wife in your past life, and you shall be my wife in this one. Whether in life or death, you shall never leave me. I bit down hard on his wrist, my eyes blazing with fury. The pain made him lash out without thinking, slapping me across the face. Wretch! The blow sent me crashing into the tea table. The carriage, already racing at breakneck speed, jolted violently. Dizzy and reeling, I struggled to steady myself. Jiang Nanting, do you not fear hell? You know perfectly well I was innocent in our past life. It was your brother and Princess Jiafu who conspired to ruin us both. I suffered 15 long years at your hands. My father died by your blade. Is that not enough? I lifted my face to stare at the man before me, my hatred burning so fiercely I wished to tear him limb from limb. I finally got a second chance to spend my life with the one I love. Why must you ruin it? Destroying one lifetime wasn't enough, must you ruin two? At my mention of the past life, Jiang Nanting's icy expression softened slightly. But when I named Su Jingyao, his features twisted into a savage grimace. I promised I'd make it up to you, Fei. You're mine, you were mine last lifetime, and you should be mine this one too. He crouched down, gently caressing my cheek, radiating a calm yet unnerving madness. I don't care that someone else was in your heart, nor that you bore another man's child. Consider those 6 years simply a missed opportunity. Everything from now on will return to its rightful course. Once you become my crown prince consort, you'll understand my love for you is no less than what Su Jingyao ever gave you. With that, he halted the carriage, lifted the curtain, and stepped out. The carriage windows were boarded shut. Peering through the cracks, I saw dusk falling as the carriage came to rest beside a small grove along the official road. Jiang Buiyuan and his sister came to bring me water and food. Jiang Buiyuan truly hated me now. His head hung low, his eyes dark and menacing, like a wolf cub waiting for the moment to pounce and tear into its prey. Unlike his silence, Jiang Hanjin pleaded earnestly for me to reconcile with Jiang Nanting. Mother, both my brother and I know we were wrong. We've changed. Can't we just live peacefully as a family of 4 from now on? I frowned. Who said I'd live with your family of 4? I have a husband and a daughter. I have nothing to do with you. Don't try to claim kinship. Jiang Hanjin, still young, flushed crimson and brimmed with tears. Mother, you gave birth to both me and my brother. How can you disown us? You were the ones who first despised me, your merchant-born mother. You were the ones who first rejected me. I sneered sarcastically, counting the years since my rebirth. You're already 10. Don't tell me a 10-year-old still lacks common sense. Jiang Hanjin truly began to weep. Mother, I was ignorant before, but I've repented now. Why won't you relent? Father is, after all, the heir apparent of the Marquis's household. Once he inherits the estate, he'll be a first-rank Marquis. Wouldn't being a Marquis's wife be far better than being a merchant's wife? Mother, why can't you understand? Seeing reason was futile, I closed my eyes, refusing to watch these ungrateful wretches any longer. After Jiang Buiyuan and his sister left, Jiang Nanting changed his clothes and returned. Unrestrained joy lit his eyes. Su Jingyao is dead. I snapped my eyes open. Jiang Nanting was still smiling, clearly delighted. He fell off a cliff. Not a trace remains. My face drained of color. My voice trembled as I demanded, what about my daughter? My parents? My in-laws? Jiang Nanting, you're not human. Your parents are still alive. I intended to marry you, to be a loving husband to you. Why would I harm your parents? It's just a pity for the Su couple. They lost their child suddenly. In their grief, they took their own lives. How could they have taken their own lives? Just now, Jiang Nanting's men reported that it was clearly the Ho family's men who strangled the entire Su family. My voice trembled uncontrollably. What about Shuer? My daughter? Fei, you're truly confused. Isn't our daughter Gina right here? Jiang Nanting's expression remained unchanged, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. You killed her? She wasn't even 5 years old. You wouldn't even spare a child? If you had agreed back then, divorced Su Jingyao and married me, she could have lived. After all, she was your child. So adorable, how could I harm her without reason? But you severed Yuaner's hand for her sake. Aw Fei, don't blame me. You were the one who didn't want her to live. Jiang Nanting's shamelessness made my head spin with rage. My whole body trembled as he stepped forward, cradling me in his arms with tender care. Don't be sad, Fei. We still have Yuaner and Gina. If you don't like them, we can have more. Holding me, his voice was incredibly tender. How about another boy and another girl? We'll name the girl Shuer. That way, Shuer will come back. Lost in his unrealistic fantasy, he didn't notice the unusual activity outside the carriage. I drew the dagger hidden in my sleeve and plunged it into the man's chest. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Jiang Nanting gave a muffled groan, his body going completely rigid. As if unable to believe it, he called out hesitantly, Fei? I pushed him away, my gaze icy. Jiang Nanting, you know what? I'm actually glad you came to Liangzhou to find me. Jiang Nanting lay at my feet, his throat making hoarse gurgling sounds, his eyes filled with confusion and bewilderment. I smiled at him. This gives me a reason to strike. To avenge my father's murder from a past life. I drew the razor-sharp golden hairpin from my hair and thrust it cleanly into his left eye, then twisted it. Listening to his heart-wrenching screams filled me with immense pleasure. From the day you told me you killed my father, I've thought constantly of tearing you limb from limb, of having you torn apart by 5 horses. How dare you even ask me to marry you? I was genuinely puzzled, truly baffled. How could you utter such nonsense about loving me? You clearly love only yourself. Everything you've done is to satisfy your own selfish desires. People like you don't understand what love is, and you don't deserve anyone's love. Jiang Nanting struggled to grab me, but the dagger in his chest was still in my hand. The slightest shift drove it deeper. He dared not move, only clutching his eyes and letting out a heart-wrenching scream. I truly hate you, Jiang Nanting. I long to drink your blood and eat your flesh, yet I fear such a filthy, vile creature would defile my lips and tongue. Outside the carriage, the mob fought. Inside, I carved away at Jiang Nanting's flesh, blade by blade. You didn't know, did you? From the day you left my home, I knew exactly what you intended. You wouldn't spare me. You wouldn't spare my family either. It was you. Jiang Nanting's eyes bulged with fury. All of it. It was you. I nodded calmly. Yes. It was all me. I had my parents and in-laws packed to flee to our rural ancestral home, but the carriage was actually filled with agile guards. Even the man who delivered the message to Jiang Nanting was one of my people. My parents, in-laws, husband, and child, all 6 of us, hid in a secret chamber within the mansion. We deliberately went out and let Jiang Nanting's men capture us, making him believe his plan had succeeded. Little did he know that once he took me out of Liangzhou City, we'd encounter a band of ruthless bandits along the way. These bandits were under the command of his second brother, Jiang Beiwang, whose sole purpose was to exterminate Jiang Nanting. Once the bandits had slaughtered all of Jiang Nanting's men, my people would then kill the bandits themselves, claiming Jiang Beiwang ordered their extermination. Then, a lightly wounded bandit would be released to travel to the capital and file a complaint, bringing Jiang Beiwang to justice for the crime of harming his own kin. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Jiang Nanting spat blood in rage. Poisonous woman. Poisonous woman. I pulled the golden hairpin from his eye and smiled. Still not as poisonous as you. Had I not foreseen this and borrowed men from Magistrate Chen, it would likely be my parents who lay dead today. I gouged out Jiang Nanting's eyes, severed the tendons in his hands and feet, and cut off his manhood. He passed out several times, only to wake again, finally begging me to grant him a swift death. The battle cries from the carriage had died down. Someone tapped lightly on the window. Miss Qin, you may come out now. Jiang Nanting lay like a heap of rotten mud, utterly immobile. I rose, pressed the knife handle into his chest, and drove it down with brutal force. Jiang Nanting coughed up a torrent of blood, his eyes filled with hatred as he drew his last breath. The moment I stepped out of the carriage, the thick stench of blood outside nearly choked me. Everything went according to Miss Qin's plan, the man reported respectfully. I saw Jiang Buiyuan's corpse in Jiang Hanjin, her eyes frozen in terror and shock. She had gone mad with terror, curled up on the ground, muttering incessantly, "Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. Miss Qin, what shall we do with her?" I pondered for a moment before quickly replying, ruin her voice. Send her far away. Understood. Jiang Buiyuan was dead and gone, but Jiang Hanjin was different. In my past life, Jiang Buiyuan had already shown maturity and propriety when he brought me the poisoned cold medicine. But Jiang Hanjin was only 5. I wouldn't acknowledge her as my daughter, but I couldn't bring myself to kill her. Let her live as the daughter of an ordinary family. After that, her fate would be her own to forge. The night was pitch black and windswept, the cold wind whistling through the air. My lady! Not far away, a tall figure held a torch aloft, charging toward me with reckless abandon. Behind him, a raging fire burned, consuming all filth and ugliness. Before him, a bright lamp was lit, illuminating a smooth path for the rest of his life. The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.